Countdown.
And we're live.
We're live.
We're live. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the Honest Look. Welcome Ulrika Karlsson is here with us today. We're very excited to have her and hear her story, her expertise. We're very, very excited for her presence here with us. We're just having a very interesting chat right before we came on the live, so I cannot wait to share her with you.
Yes. Yeah, we had a bit of behind the scenes, and I'm going, Fatí, we should save this for our show coming up. It's like this is good, all good stuff because there's so much in your bio, Ulrika, and I'm just gonna go read it, okay? Because I want to give us as much time in our show for you and for your subjects, and for everybody to hear. So I apologize. This is gonna. I don't necessarily or all the time read things, but I'm going to this case.
There's too much goodness in there.
And I think I got my reading glasses on. Okay. Um, so Ulrika is a intuitive empath with a history of being depressed and suicidal, and she came to the point where she had to choose between life and death. Today, she shares her experiences and embodied wisdom from her heart with nearly 30 years of experience of traditional Western and Eastern holistic disciplines. Her work as a spiritual healer, international author, and reader of the Ashik,
A casting.
Akashic. See, I look at a word, Akashic records. Yoga teacher, therapist, takes her around the globe to work with many men and women of different ages and from all fields of life. The essence of Ulrika's work is to increase consciousness and to guide you into your heart. Her latest books, now these are some really interesting titles. Her latest books, Holy Fuck and Scared Sacred Water, The Secret Connections to Everything, The Sacred Soul, A Divine Evolution Through Time and Space. And oh, there we are. Yeah. And beautiful, beautiful covers.
Beautiful covers. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thank you.
And one of Eureka's gifts are to help you transform old inner shit, commonly known as karma, into flow, freedom, and being connected to who you are on a soul level. So welcome. Um, and you're in Sweden right now, correct?
Yes, I am. And thank you, Fatí and Rick, for having me. I'm also looking forward for this talk. This is a really good energy. Can you sense it through the screen?
Yeah, it is very good energy. And like you guys are wearing red, which
Yeah.
you were explaining. Well, not only it's Christmassy, but you were also explaining that's important to wear red for your root chakra. Is that what you said?
Exactly. Like if you are doing something that is important, if you go for a job interview, or if you want to, take a big deal and make it happen, then always wear something that is red, because red is the root chakra color, and it's connecting you to the magma into the earth. So red is a good color.
Good
That's
to
a
know.
really good tip. Remember that.
Because we
You
all
have red lipstick. You have red lipstick, Fatí, right?
It's like pinkish, yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Reddish.
well
Yeah,
any hue of red. we
exactly.
we sometimes I know it like some of the Western culture, red is power.
Mm.
Red
Well, the
is
root
truly
chakra,
power. Yeah, and the root chakra is a lot of power there.
right?
The root chakra is connected to the wisdom of Gaia, of Mother Earth. So indeed, a lot of power.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
no, that's kind of cool.
So I wonder if we can actually get a little bit into your story, because we always love to hear the stories of our guests and like what took you to this incredible transformation from feeling really depressed, suffering for many years of depression and feeling suicidal, to now being a spiritual healer. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Thank you, Fatih. Yes, so I'm going to do the quite short
Yeah.
version. So yes, I was being depressed and had sleeping disorders and a lot of, all sorts of stress-related symptoms, panic attacks, problems with my stomach, a lot of rashes and eczema, and then the sleeping disorders. So basically, I was only sleeping 15 minutes per night. So in my first book, which is called 2:47 a.m., The Journey Home to My Heart, I'm describing my journey from being suicidal and coming back, coming back home into my heart. And it started with my sleep, actually. I started to have sleeping disorder at a very young age, and then I sort of adapted to that, and then I woke up early at night, and then I adapted to that. And so in the end, I was only sleeping, like I said, 15 minutes per night. And obviously, if you sleep this little, it's, affecting all of you on all levels. So I was very, my cognitive abilities was very affected, and I was like a junkie. I was very sensitive to light and to sound. I was like, jerking and twisting and moving all the time. And every night I woke up from horrible nightmares after these 15 minutes of sleep. I woke up at 2:47 a.m.
Wow.
Being murdered every night. So every night it was like, a horror scene, blood splattering, and I was tortured and hunted and murdered. So I wake up and I'm in complete disorientation. I don't know where I am, and my heart is pounding. I have this stale taste of blood in my mouth, and I'm all sweaty. And then I just look around in the pitch darkness, and then I see the alarm clock saying 2:47, and then I knew that I had just, slept for 15 minutes. And so these bad nights were with me every day, and I had so many suppressed emotions within me. I had high inner demands on myself and a lot of suppressed emotions like grief, and I was feeling so much self-hatred towards myself, self-disdain, contempt. So it was like a downward moving spiral, I was just falling further down, and I just didn't want to live anymore. And I never told anybody. Like, I was lying next to my husband every night, and he didn't know that I was being murdered and tortured every night next to him. And I just told him one day that I was so tired that I needed to go away, because at the time I had two small children, and so, like 1 2-year-old and one baby, and I couldn't even stand the sounds from my own children. It was so triggering to me. So I left for my parents' cabin in the archipelago. And there I have sort of an experience when I have this thing within me, and I don't know what it is. It's like a volcano that is about to erupt, and I can feel it, and it's so, so scary. And all of a sudden, it's like I get a stab in my heart. So I'm thinking that I'm having a heart attack, and this massive and excruciating pain. So I'm falling down into the snow. And here I hear like a snap. And then this thing within me is rising and moving, and I can't even control it anymore. And it's just, terrifying to me. I don't know what it is. I never experienced anything like it because I've always suppressed it. And then all of a sudden, lying there in the snowpack where I fell, thinking that I was going to die from a heart attack, I hear this horrific howling, and it's like an animal, primal scream and death screams of an animal. And then I realized that these screams are my own, coming deep inside from me, and I hear another snap, and I just start to cry just enormously. And so I'm curled up in fetus position, holding on to my heart because it feels like it's gonna explode in 1 million pieces, and I'm gonna die. And I have these thoughts that I didn't even get to say goodbye to my children. I'm going to die alone here in the pitch black forest. So I'm lying there for hours, and then when I come back to my senses and my body is moving and I hear these really, really weird sounds coming from deep within myself, a lot of howling, growling, grunting, screaming, a lot of primal screams. And then I can finally sense that it is all subsiding. And then for the first time in like many, many, many years, decades, it's totally still in my mind. And I experience something that for me is like God, in the sense, God of divine source. It's like a stillness in expansion. And it's just so still and peaceful. And I've never experienced anything like that. And then I knew that, okay, either I'm going to continue to do what I have been doing and then I will be dead. And I am no use for nobody, not for my kids, not for myself if I'm dead. Or I need to do something differently. And that night, when I went back to the Kamet, all my senses were so enhanced. You know, I could see different shapes and forms in the pitch black. I could hear the snowflakes falling. I could sense with all my senses so much things that I had never experienced before. So I go back home by myself into the cabin, and I'm sitting there all night, still with this incredibly silence within me, and sitting there in the darkness and just knowing that like this was some kind of a turning point for me. I couldn't describe it logically. It didn't make sense. I didn't know, you know, what had changed. But it was like this volcano that finally erupted and allowed me to free myself from a lot of suppressed emotions and traumas.
It sounds literally like a release, like an emotional release, like something was was being released through your body, through, you know, emotionally, like something that was stuck in there. Is that how it felt?
Exactly. It was big release, and it was like the starting point of many years of releases from different kind of traumas, from suppressed emotions, from all this hatred that I felt towards myself. Like I couldn't even look in myself in my eye in the mirror. All I could see, you know, was this hollow face and this total lifeless eye. So this was like the ignition point of many years to come, with a lot of release from this lifetime and also from previous lifetime. Because as a yogi, we believe that we are being reincarnated. That energy never dies. It just shifts and transforms and take different shapes and forms. So not only do I have traumas with me from this lifetime, but also, you know, from my ancestor and the family lineage, and then also from my own previous lifetimes that I've had. So it was like a big meltdown and release. And actually that is, you know, how we release the frozen emotions. Energy in motion needs to move through us, but we in the Western countries, we hold on to our emotions and we suppress them, or we distract ourselves or numb ourselves. So yeah, and so I had many turning points in my journey coming back to my heart, and I share a lot of them here in this book, 2:47 a.m. Journey Home to My Heart.
Well, it truly sounds like something moved. Something finally moved. Like somehow you reached that bottom, whatever you want to call it, that caused things to release. You know, it can go one way or the other for you. For some reason, it was a release.
It was indeed, and it was also the starting point. I've been traveling around the world, but the journey that I've done from my headspace, where I was living my whole life, and moving down into my heart, that was the most challenging one, and that was like the the ignition of this journey.
Right. So can you just, sorry, go ahead, Rick.
I was just going to say it's what I find interesting is that it's your experience is described much similar to a lot of other kind of like spiritual teachers that are past and present have talked about in their own journeys. Like there was this catalyst, there was this point of in inferno or in I was going to say lightning strikes, but it's not necessarily like that. But it's definitely something that's enlifting or enlightening. It's and everybody talks about that it is the starting point, like you were saying. It's the starting point of that journey and things like that. Now I'm curious because I know of a few that are part of my coaching circle, but have you ever had anything like that before, like as you on your journey going
Yes,
forward?
yes, I've had. So so I know that I'm here, as we all are sitting here in this call, and you who are tuning in to listen, that we are, some people call us light workers, that we are here with a certain frequency. And I know that my soul's mission is here to aid the ascension process, individually and collectively, that we are all in. But at the time where I was then and there, I had no connection to my spirituality. I was totally disconnected from my soul. I was only in my ego, in my mental mindset. And so, yes, I have had many, many, many things like this. And now I've learned that my body is so much smarter than my mind. So if I allow my body to be in charge, then I can release it really easily and really quick. And the body is an amazing tool. Since everything is stored within the body, we need to use the body as the tool to free ourselves from the trauma or suppressed feelings that we all individually are having, and also in the collective consciousness. So my body, I can connect with my Kundalini power, and I have sort of a special gift with water, the element water representing emotions, water also representing spirits. And I can tune often my water, like having fontaine orgasms without being sexually aroused. Like if I want to cry and I can't cry, then I can just release it the other way out. Or if I'm having a fever, or if I'm transmuting frozen emotions from myself or others, I can just turn on my water and it just flows through me and clears out. And that's also why I'm writing a lot about it in Holy Fucking Sacred Water, that our inner water are so polluted by our lifestyles, by our mindsets, by our traumas. So we only have access to 5% of consciousness. This we all know. And that means that we are governed by the 95% of our unconscious and deep programming. And they are stored in our water, in our cells, in our DNA. So when I have to release something, then I'm just saying to my body, it's okay, you do whatever you have to do to transmute and transform. And then my body can start, to move, to twist. And I can sort of connect with the water and just let it flow through me. I can also have these kind of, it's like vomiting, but only vomiting energy. So my body is really, really smart and can transmute a lot of things. And I know that when I do it for me, I also do it for the collective consciousness. And I know that some of my work has also been to clear out other things, other energies that has been stuck on me or with me. So yes, I've had many. I have that like once a month that's a way also of clearing and doing my upgrade.
Right. It sounds like you're removing the resistance to it, because we have been trained and conditioned to resist anything that feels a little yucky, right? Like
Yeah,
you're a little sad, and like I'm gonna resist crying or feeling the sadness, right? I'm gonna, with my mind, I'm gonna reframe it, or figure out how to
exactly.
distract
Mhm.
myself.
Mhm.
And instead, it sounds like that by just allowing it, you're now letting it through. And listen,
Exactly.
I do the same thing, like probably slightly differently, but like it doesn't feel good in the moment, right? In
Mm.
the moment, I feel really sad. In the moment, I'm crying. It's not fun. It's not supposed to be fun. But I remind myself in those moments that it's just a passage, it's just a moment, it's just what it's going to take to actually move it. Because the more I just bypass it, and the more I just turn on Netflix, or start watch something fun, or like pretend that it's not happening, and the more it builds up and starts manifesting in different ways. So that's
Exactly.
right.
Yeah,
There,
totally.
one of the teachers in the group, his name's Sid Banks. He passed away, but he had a very enlightening experience like yours, and his key message was, if there was one thing that we could learn, was not to be afraid of our experiences, or not to be afraid of our feelings. That alone could change the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But as you were saying, Fatih, and as you also are into, Rick, that we are not taught this. This is not our experience. We in the Western world, we are, and I come from a country here in Sweden where we suppress a lot of things because we have this in our DNA. It's like an unwritten law that is in our genes, and it's called jantelagen. And it is, who do you think that you are? You're nothing special.
Mm.
You're not allowed to shine. You're not allowed to be something special. You're not allowed to be too much, too happy, too angry, too sad, too horny, too nothing. You should just be like this, like, like a
Yeah.
flat curve.
Like
And
stoic.
that is not life.
Yeah.
So we are so suppressed in our mental mindset here in Sweden that, that we should not be too happy, we should not be too successful, blah blah blah, yada yada. And this is what we are being taught also, like, oh, you don't be so sensitive, don't, oh, that was nothing, just rub it off. And so we are being taught that our emotions and how we feel is not, significant. And I would say, on the contrary, like, we are not our bodies, we are not our thoughts, we are
Yeah.
not our emotions. However, what we think, what we feel, what we experience is information. And if I don't act upon that information, it gets stored as frozen emotions, and eventually like some kind of symptom or disease where I'm not at ease.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how we are creating diseases here in the Western world.
Yeah.
Basically, a lot of frozen emotions and a lot of unresolved stress and traumas that are being stored in our bodies.
It what I find, like, your culture around, in Sweden, like you were saying, you can't be too much of this and that. Um, so what where was the shift to become the spiritual healer? Like that that in itself almost seems an
Too
unintuitive.
much.
Well, almost too much. Like, it's
Yes.
like whoa, okay, it's like,
Yes.
but yeah. Now, how did so? Can you walk through that a little bit, or?
Yes. Thank you, Rick. So basically, it comes down to that I was too sick to have a proper job. I was too sick to be part of an organization. I was too sick because I had my sleeping disorders, and I had my panic attacks, and I was very, very sensitive. I've always been, but I didn't know it at the time that I was this intuitive empath, because I had to learn at an early age to shut down, to be normal, to
Yeah.
adapt, to
Yeah.
be, around other people. But I was like an antenna just absorbing it all. So basically it just came down to that I was too sick. And then I knew that, okay, I have to do something. I was a single mom to 2 kids, as in my process of being sick. Also, my husband, he didn't want to be married to me anymore because all he saw was my depression. He didn't see me as a person anymore. He just saw my symptoms.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't have any money and I have 2 kids to support and I'm too sick to work. It's not like just, get a grip on yourself or get in line or get in control, because I couldn't. I tried to, I tried to get a grip. I tried to be like everybody else. It just didn't work for me because I wasn't like anybody else. So I started a yoga studio, and this is a fun story. I really want to share it with you guys. That, as I was saying, I didn't have any money, and so I got a link in my email saying that from a friend, oh, you should participate to this course. This is yoga therapy for depressed people.
Mm.
So I entered that, and the course was only for 10 weeks. And then my teacher there told me, okay, so we have 1 spot left for the yoga therapist teacher training. Do you want it? And I said, I'm a single mom. I don't have any money. I don't know. My energy is very fragile at the moment. And he said, do you want it? And I just sort of felt like a pulling, a calling towards this. So I said yes. And then he said, okay, so you take the spot and everything else would work itself out. And then I got money back from my own company. I had, when I was depressed and I was away from my job, I still paid my taxes in my little business. So I got exactly the same amount of money back that covered the fees for the teacher training. That was 1.5 years. And so I started to do this program, and from there I could sort of see the light in the tunnel. My perspective, that it was just black, like shit, really. But I could see that the darkness sort of became a bit more gray, and then I sort of could sense like there was some light into the tunnel. And at the end of this teacher training comes a woman, and she came with another kind of yoga in the feminine way. And I was like, oh my God, I need to do this. And so she said to me, so I have 1 spot here for my teacher training. So do you want it? And I was like, oh my God, I've just, been here 1.5 years. I've tried to fix it with babysitting for my kids with my parents, and I don't know. And she said, well, just come and give it a go for a weekend. And so I did. And I was like, oh my God. So I need to do this, not only, to get another diploma or to be the good girl or to be very productive or some kind of status. I need to do it for me. And here goes the same thing. And I said, I don't have the money. And she said, well, if you want the spot, it's yours. And so I felt this calling, and I was like, okay, I'm going to accept. And then I got money back from my employment and insurance, as I didn't even know that I was having, as I was working for the city. So that money covered another teacher training for 1 year. So, and then I did, to answer your question. So I picked everything that I've done to heal myself from this state of complete depletion, burnout, being suicidal. So it was like a smorgasbord where I added up all together. This is good. This is, working with me, with my frequency. And then I started to do teacher trainings. And then I started to heal other people. So I'm only working with modalities and things that I know work, as I'm here, sitting here with you guys alive today. So that was the story to that. A rather long answer, but anyway.
No, but it highlights for me this notion of surrendering to that flow.
Right.
and all the, you know, the serendipitous or the coincidences that happen in our life, and you know, to me they're many, I call them mini miracles. But it's because it just, you know, when you point yourself in a particular direction, providence sort of aligns itself and takes care of the rest for you, and it's a shining example of your journey, that how that happened.
Exactly. And I didn't believe at these things at the time. As I said, I was very much, you know, in my headspace and always worrying and always trying to solve my problems mentally. But so these was so new experiences to me. And then over my own healing, I connected back to my, you know, intuitive abilities and to my empathetic abilities, and my also I have abilities of premonitions, like I could see things happening before they happen.
Hmm.
So yeah, so it's like this old saying, like you're peeling off layers and layers of yourself, like, you know, like an onion. So the more I have released old emotions, and the more inner darkness or shadow or wounds, whatever we like to call it, I have witnessed, transformed, transmuted, and healed, the more access I have to my abilities and to my light. And from this energy, I can also serve others more than when I'm depleted.
Hmm.
Right, because it's opening up space for you to be able to have that connection with your intuition, with those abilities, right? That otherwise are covered up by the space that all these emotions take up, right? The noise,
Exactly.
right? The turbulence within us. I love that. You know, I'm actually really curious now to hear where the shamanic training came into play. Like, how did you end up going there from, you know, being a yoga teacher, therapist into shamanic work?
For me, it's not such a big step, because for me, yoga, that's also one thing that has been distorted in the Western countries, what yoga is about. Many people think that yoga is about a lot of positions, advanced positions or asanas, but yoga simply means connection. And the more I connect with myself, the more I align with myself, again, the more access I have to, you know, to my inner darkness, to the feminine, and to my inner light, the masculine and the merge, which we call the holy fuck. So, and then I think it was like 2015, and I was still, you know, in the healing process. I was feeling better, but I was still in the healing process. And then I see an ad, I think it was on Facebook or something like that. And I could just sense from my reactions that, wow, this was really triggering to me. So I knew that there was information there and that I needed to go there. And I didn't tell my partner at first, because I was like, okay, am I going to tell him and invite him to go this course, this program with me, or is this for me? So I was just, you know, sort of really integrating that and really feeling into my own need regarding this program. And then I sensed that I really want him to do this with me. So I'm going to ask if he wants to join me, or if I'm going to do it by myself. And this course was it was sexual, spiritual, and shamanic work. So it was an initiation to sexuality, to even more spirituality, and more shamanic work. And I was so scared. I was so scared when I left for this program. It was for like 10 days and really, really intense early mornings to late evenings. And I was so scared, even though that I was there with my partner when we were going to do things together. But there was so many things also that I released and that I discovered there. And then before Me Too, I had this strong feeling that, oh my God, we human beings, we need to work more on our sexuality. We need to work more on our sexuality and make it more sacred. And because the way we are living is that we only fuck. The sexuality is not sacred, and there's so much information here that we have lost. And I would really feel that there was something going on, you know, in the outer realms. And I was just thinking to myself, I really want to be of service here. I really want to be of service because I know what it's like when I'm all shut down, when I don't connect with my body, when I don't, you know, I don't understand the signals and the communication from my body because I'm not listening. So I really want to be in service of this. And then I saw an ad on Facebook again from my teacher on this program that I was just for 10 days, where a lot of release happened, and we were working with the shadows of the feminine and the masculine. And it turned out that she just set together like a year program where we were going to sacred spaces, and the program was like becoming a sexual healer, a priestess Dakini. And I was so scared, and I just knew, okay, then I need to go again. I need to go again and face my fears regarding these matters. So that was Buddhistic Tantra and a lot of shamanic work. So it's been sort of, I've been guided, you know, step by step to deepen my yoga practice, as yoga just is connection to connecting even more and deeper into ancient wisdom, and to make this wisdom embodied through my own experiences.
Wow. Sounds like all of the, you followed all the breadcrumbs that came along the way, right?
I did.
And sometimes I find that those breadcrumbs, we can really question them because they're not what we expect them to be, right? It's not what we had planned for them to be. Or, you know, they seem a little weird, but somewhere within you, you had the wisdom to just continue to follow and trust the
Yeah,
process, right?
exactly.
Well,
the wisdom and the courage, because it also takes courage to follow
Right.
these guidance. I mean, it's so much easier not to follow them, to do
Right.
what you always have, or, you know. But yes, and I was like, oh no, not again. So, but it's like, I mean, for many years ago, when I was sick and depressed, I read something from Paulo Coelho, and there was this sentence, and it was like, you know, there's always people going ahead of the crowd. And I was like, it resonated so much within me. And then, you know, it took me many years to realize that I am one of those that is walking ahead. So I need, if I am going to face other people that are stressed, that are depressed, people that are shut down, people who are disconnected from their sexuality, then I cannot only trust, you know, what I've read, like in theory. I also need to be there. It needs to be embodied from me, through me, because otherwise it's just like a big mental and spiritual bypass if I'm just in the mental sphere.
Yeah.
So, but there's so many times that I've really, what you're saying, Fatih, I was like, oh no, please, not again. Please let me rest, please. Why me? Why couldn't I just be satisfied with, you know, to live a life like following the Swedish curve? Why do I have to
be normal.
Why do I have to go through all of this? And, you know, it's not only like this, it's also regarding money. I've been, you know, I mean, there's so many things that I've been like broke, and I don't have any money, and I have these children to support, and still I have to go to more educations and more trainings and more retreats. I'm like, no. But yeah, and I think and this year 2022, I also had like a big upgrade and a big transmutation. In the beginning of the year, I was like covered in eczema from my neck down to my toes, and it was all inflamed and infected, and I didn't sleep anything, and, you know, I was just screaming out of pain. It was like this red. And then I realized a sentence that I was writing in my own book, like what is happening to the carbon within us if it's under a lot of heat and under a lot of pressure for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's getting into the diamond phase. So this year has been a transmutation into my diamond phase, my crystalline phase.
Wow.
Interesting. Like, so I'm curious. Like you mentioned a few times, like this following, and we talk about the breadcrumbs and things like that. But there's there's something fundamental, and I know some of our readers are interested in that piece around the knowing. Like there's the knowing from the ego point of view, but then there's that spiritual knowing, that yes, it it this looks like another education course, and why me, which is kind of like your ego speaking. Can you just like, how do we get more in tune with that knowing piece?
That is such a good question. Thank you, Rick. And my latest book, The Sacred Soul, A Divine Evolution Through Time and Space, I'm actually writing about that.
Okay.
Because most people are listening to our egos because this is what we are being taught to, or, what we have experienced from. And the ego is here to keep us safe. That is the ego's, that is the main cause of the ego, to keep us safe.
Mm-hmm.
But we know that there's no growth in our comfort zone where the ego wants to have us. The ego wants us to be stuck because the ego still believes that it makes us a favor, of keeping us here. Like, oh, I'm saving your life.
Safe and keeping us safe, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the soul, on the other hand, the soul is not about survival and keeping us safe. The soul is here to guide us into our own evolution, into high states of consciousness, into more light. And every kind of growth happen outside our comfort zone. So there can be this sort of inner battle between, and my therapist, when I went to therapy, he used to say, well, sometimes it's easier, we live in the illusion that it's easier for us to be stuck in a known hell than an unknown happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And so many of us in the Western world, we are listening to our ego. We want more money. We are listening to, illusions on what we should look like, how we should be, how we should act, not to be too much, too little, to adapt, blah, blah, blah. And the ego is like, wow, good, I'm helping you, I'm really serving you. But the soul wants us to thrive. So that's why it gives us these challenges, because challenges are disguised gifts. Once you sort of, accept them, because we always have a choice. As a free soul, we always have choices, free choices to make. I can make the choice to get stuck in my ego. Like I could have made the choice to commit suicide, right? And then I wouldn't be here. I could be in the choice of resisting all the pain and the massive and intense emotions that I had to go through to be here. Or I could make that choice and to use my own wounds as like a trampoline to grow from. Like I can use my own inner darkness to transmute it into more light. So we always have that choice.
Mm-hmm.
But most of us, we are distracting ourselves with, phones, with social media. We are busy running around in the hamster wheel. We are working a lot. And I know even you in America, Americans like to work a lot, like being busy, busy, busy. And when we are being busy, 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 there's no room for anything else. Like we have work, and then we have activities, and then we have, we must do this and we must do that. So we keep our minds always busy in the hamster wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's no growth, no evolution for the soul.
Well, it's a conditioning that
Exactly.
is driving our decision making, right? It's driving our choices, right?
Exactly.
And that awareness around the fact that we're conditioned to want to work, because no one wants to just to work, right? It's the conditioning that drives us to do things in a certain way, right?
Exactly. That's the 95% of the conditioned of the
Right.
programs.
Right.
And also when we are in the hamster wheels, we are good consumers. We are buying new cars, new cell phones. We are doing new programs for our computers. We are, buying this and that. We are fixing our kitchen. We are fixing our bodies, whatever. So we are good consumers, consume a lot of medications, consume a lot of, but if I'm, content and aligned with who I am, then just being naked in nature, or just sitting here is like meaningful. Do you know what I mean? So
Right.
so I'm not saying that we are not going to buy things, but the more light and the more consciousness you have access to, the more you realize that I don't need a new cell phone. I can turn off my phone and go out into nature. And so this paradigm that we are in now, and that we are also moving into, because we are moving into the year 2023, and that is a 7 in numerology, and the 7 stands for more connection to spirit and to soul.
Oh, good.
So we are in this huge paradigm of moving from the matrix in the 3rd dimensional and moving into the true aspect of who we are on a soul level, which is the 5th dimension and above. And then I am content in me, because also what is going on is that we are all living lives that are not sustainable, not for ourselves, for our healths, and not also for the planet. Like, just take a look on how we are abusing Mother Earth, the planet that we are living upon. We are polluting her lakes, her oceans. We are cutting down her forests. We are, hunting her children like animals. And the more access I have to who I am on a soul level, and the more access I have to my inner consciousness, I don't want to live that. I want to live sustainable.
Yeah.
I want to live in a way that is anchored, both to Mother Earth, but also out to the universe. And we were talking about karma clearings before, Fatí, and this is also like I do karma clearing in the Akashic records, and we all come with karma. And this karma is us leaking a lot of energy from this lifetime and previous lifetime, from negative choices that we all have done. We have all been perpetrators in previous lifetimes. We have all been soldiers. We have all been victims. And then we have these conditioned and these deep programming with us that we are not even conscious of. So it's like we are leaking this energy and contributing. Each and one of us are contributing to what is going on in the world today. So when I take a radical responsibility and I clear my karma, I clear my own shit, my inner shit, then I'm transmitting from another frequency. I'm transmitting free from these karma, from the negative choices. And then I can contribute for a higher state of the collective consciousness as well. But as long as I'm carrying these 95% of conditioned programs that I'm not even aware that I'm having.
Right.
And just take a look on the word, for the past 2.5 years. Like, there's been so much separation between us, regardless if you did that choice or if you did the opposite, if you took the jab or if you didn't take the jab. There's been so much separation and so much projection. And that is our own unresolved shit moving into the collective consciousness. And so it's very low vibrational. And that's why we also need to raise the vibration individually and also collectively, so we can live more sustainably and aligned with Mother Earth.
Yeah. There's a question from, I'm just going to throw this up here, or a comment. Like Wendy puts down, it's very hard to find the peace of mind to pull out of that state of mind. And you were talking about the hamster wheel and all the different things that we're doing to keep us engaged in our ego, like the busy mind. And in my experience, it's when we sort of let go of whatever that dialogue is happening, to get that peace and contentment that you're pointing to, then that quieter and gentler voice has a chance to speak, the wisdom part, the intuitive part. And I'm not sure if that's part of your experience, but as long as we're caught up in our own chatter, nothing, we will never have anything fresh and new. We will never evolve or never grow forward, because there's nothing fresh and new in there. It's out with your soul. It's out in the expression of your soul.
Yeah, I think that's like one explanation. And thank you, Wendy, for the question. Like, my perspective on this is also like the great Buddha was teaching, that what is causing suffering to us humans are like cravings. I want peace of mind. I want more money. I want a better body. I want a better health, or whatever. So the cravings towards something.
Right.
And then the other thing that is causing suffering is aversion. I don't want to feel these intense feelings. I don't want to feel my pain, my grief, my fears. I don't want to face my fears. I don't want to age. I don't want to be excluded from society. And even here, people, like, we can say many people are meditating to be calm. But that's not what meditation is about. Meditation means to come into the center and to observe. And maybe meditation is about to allow those feelings to occur instead of just calming them down for the moment.
Interesting. Yeah.
So my answer to you, Wendy, is also that if I'm striving for peace, if I'm craving for peace, then the universe is like, then as you are craving it, you don't have it already, as with the knowledge and the embodied wisdom that you have it already. And to just observe it all, to observe the monkey mind, as the Buddhist calls the mind, is always moving, always scratching, always making noise, and to observe it, and you let it until you come to a point where the ego and the monkey mind has been, so upset, so it just sort of tires down, and then maybe you can feel or experience something else. But meditation is not about not feeling. Meditation is to feel it all and to experience it all, but not to act upon your reactions.
Well, that's a very important distinction when you talk about the desire for, because it really points to the fact that you don't have it already. Like it's like when we use meditation as a means of getting something, that's not what it was designed for. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes, because as we've been talking, that we have 95% of deep conditioned programs.
Yeah.
And so many programs we have are programs of fear. Just take a look at the past 2.5 years. We've been living from fear-based perspectives. And we also have programs of scarcity and lack. I mean, this is what we have individually and also in the collective consciousness. And that's why the world is looking like it does today.
Yeah.
Right.
So the more of these 95% of deep conditioned programs that we all carry unknowingly and unconsciously, the more access I have to my consciousness. And then I know that everything regarding what kind of polarity it is in, it is just an experience for the soul to grow. So if I'm sitting there and because many people also like, no, I can't sit still for 5 minutes to meditate. Well, then sit 10. So here's the learning experiences. And if I sit with it long enough, it's going to change. The nature in itself is the constant change.
Well, what comes to mind for me, it's something that I've been hearing as the underlying message of what you've been sharing, and that is very true from my own experience too, is that transformation and change within ourselves takes courage.
Exactly.
It takes courage to actually face who we are, to face those thoughts, to sit in that stillness that doesn't feel like stillness, to sit there and feel those feelings that feel like crap, right? And you know, and I often hear people nowadays use the word alignment. It's become a very sexy word, right? But truly, what alignment means, alignment is very true, right? We are striving to be aligned with who you are. Is not always comfortable. Is not always fun. Oftentimes being in alignment with who you are and what your values are implies making very difficult decisions,
It
implies
does.
getting really uncomfortable.
It
it,
does.
it takes that courage to do
Exactly.
what it takes to accomplish, you know, the changes to truly transform.
And so it is. And you, Rick, you're from Canada, and courage comes from the word in French, the la coeur, which is the heart.
Mhm.
So it takes lots of courage to live from the heart centered, because we have lived from the headspace for centuries, because this is what the deep programming is about. Because it is consciously, I'm writing about this in my books, that we are over the years, over the centuries, you know, through the timelines, we have consciously been programmed by some people. And these programs are unconscious to us, but they have consciously been put there because it makes us easy to control. In the third dimensional aspect, where our bodies are
Mhm.
living and existing, we are being controlled. Government, for instance, the absolute translation of government, govern is control, and ment is mind. So government literally means mind control. So we have been controlled for thousands of years by certain systems to keep us in place and to keep us separated, to keep the body separated from spirit, to keep us separated from our souls. And we have bought into it. And the thing is that we have forgotten about this, but it lies. We are writing so much about it in this book, Holy Fuck,
Mhm.
that it is in our genes, it is in our DNA, in our cells. All the memories resides there, where we have started to give our power away. And these are the times, as you were saying, Fatih, the courage to reclaim ourselves, the courage to align ourselves, to be whole, to be all that we are, in the good aspects and in the lesser good aspects that we are. It's not about getting perfect or being, never being sad or never being upset. It's about the wholeness, the whole and the full experience of it all. So
That's
yes, it takes a lot of courage to live from the heart in a world who lives from the mental or from the mind.
Right. And oftentimes, even if it's, we now are aware of our own conditioning, right? And now we have the courage to live in alignment and make the choices that are aligned with our values, that we know are true to ourselves. We often find ourselves up against society, those that are living in the conditioning, those that are doing the judging and the smearing and the shaming, because now you're just standing your ground and saying no to the conditioning, right? So the environment as well can really fight
Exactly.
up against you, right?
Exactly. And not only the environment, also our culture. Like, I'm
Yeah.
from
yeah.
Sweden. We have a different karma than other guys, and you from Canada have one, and you from Iran have another one, and if you're from a certain religion. So there's so many things that are contributing to these conditioned programs. And to stand in your heart and to speak your truth in all of this, it really, it's a lot of courage, and it's not for everybody. But if you want to be the best version of yourself every day, if you want to be aligned with who you truly are and your soul's mission, because we all have a mission, we all have a mission from our soul. My mission is to inspire people into higher level of consciousness and coming back into the heart. That is my mission here on earth. And we all have missions. But the more I'm distracting myself or numbing myself from things from the outer realms, the more I'm living in the matrix, and the more I'm stuck in the patterns, the limited beliefs, or the programming that exists in this culture, in this religion, or whatever. So these times that we are in, we are facing all the challenges in the outer realms. What is going on? Actually, the year 2020, when it all started, was the year of the heart.
Wow.
But we all, most of us, went into fear.
Right.
So we had an enormous opportunity for, like a quantum leap in our consciousness. But we chose the lower states of frequencies, which we chose the programming of fears, right? And now we've been in the year of 2022, and 22 is like a master number for the heart. And we're still in the deep conditioned programs of lack, scarcity, and fear. And now we're moving into 2023, which is all about connecting to your soul on a deeper level. So, that's one of my mission here, is like to aid the individual and the collective back into their soul's mission, who they truly are.
And it seems, even from my perspective too, just what's coming under my radar and how I'm kind of experiencing it, is that it seems like next year we're gearing up for a big shift, like a consciousness shift.
We are.
Yeah. And and many people have been predicting this for a long time.
Yes.
And it just seems things are kind of lining up in an interesting way, a
Yeah.
very exciting way. I think it's
Very exciting. And you have a choice. You always have a choice, because there are multiple timelines, and regarding of where you are in your consciousness, where you are in your evolution, and how willing you are to evolve. Either you stay on the old timeline, or you evolve to the high timelines.
Right.
So we all have this choice.
And I would say within that moment of change, of shift, that's where the real turbulence happens. It's not
Exactly.
comfortable. It really sucks.
Exactly. And then in that moment that we are talking about, then you can jump from the lower timeline with a lower frequency of programming and lack and scarcity programs, and jump into the higher timeline with a higher consciousness. And many people are talking about, I'm being a yogi, and people are talking about the ascending flow, like we want to ascend, we want to evolve, we want to be enlightened. When the energy is just going up in the upward flow, the ascending flow, the energy is leaving the heart and going up into the head space. So it's so important that we're also working with the descending flow, the feminine flow, the descending flow, that is the liberating flow, and the manifesting flow that takes us down into our root chakra, connecting down to Mother Earth. Because if I am connected in my root, who I am, then I am not, causing any harm to myself, to any other, or to this planet. It is when I'm disconnected from my roots, from Gaia, that's, the lifestyles that we see today of the Western world. The abuse behavior, the manipulation, the greed, then we are not being connected in the root chakra. So we need to work with the descending flow. We need to work with the feminine essence, the feminine, and not saying that this is only for females, because as a man, we have the yin and yang, the feminine and the masculine, and as in a female body. So we both have them. But for thousands of years, we have been working. We want to ascend, the ascended masters. We want to be enlightened. And you can hear it in the language. We want to have higher career. We want to climb the ladder of the career. We want to have higher educations, right? But this energy is taking us away from the heart. It's taking us away from the courage. So we need to descend from our head space into our heart space, into all our chakra, and to the root, to connect with Mother Earth. Because when I'm grounded, I don't hurt anybody, and then we can live in a sustainable way and with a higher access of consciousness.
Yeah.
So it's not only by moving up into a higher level of consciousness, it is actually, and as much as I want to ascend, evolve, expand, as much I need to go inwards.
Right.
And the descending flow. So it's not moving only in one direction. It's multidimensional.
Yeah, to me I always use the visual of the pendulum in balance, right? Because the energies are always in equal when they're equal. It's just when we're holding on to, and you're also pointing out, getting back to, like, if there's this desire, I want to be an enlightened individual.
Exactly.
Now it becomes a pursuit.
Yes.
It's that, and it's also this concept, and this is actually really triggering to me, this concept of ascending, being enlightened, higher, consciousness. It's a human concept. This, like, that it's in going higher that it's better, right? Whereas
Yes, that's an illusion.
it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And what you're pointing to me with the descending is, it's a little bit like going through the layers of the whole, right?
Exactly.
Of the whole of who we are. It's not about ascending, descending. It's about all of it. Because if I cannot be my body, if I cannot be grounded in my body, then I am denying a part of myself, right?
Exactly.
Because I'm just aiming to be somewhere where I'm not, right? Not only
Exactly.
back, but is denying a part of what this three-dimensional experience is. We are in these bodies for a reason. Right?
Exactly.
But we're aiming to just be up there, because up there is
Exactly.
better. And up there is not where we are. Right.
And then we are back to what Buddha said. We are striving for the enlightenment, and
Yeah.
we have aversions for the bodily experience, the physical experience.
Yeah.
So this is what causes suffering. And I think Wendy was saying something, and I totally agree. Evolution is an ongoing process, and it's there all the time, regardless. But every second in my body, in your body, 80,000 cells are dying. And every second, 80,000 cells are being reborn. And if I have this mindset, this limited mindset, if I have these deep conditioned programming with me, this 95% of unconscious deep program with me from this second to this second, then the evolution is not as optimal as it could be.
Yeah.
So I need to change myself on a cellular level so I can take new actions, new thoughts, coming closer to my inner wisdom. And so it's about becoming the best version of myself every day. And that is not always being happy or being, it can be days where you really have to dig deep and, to dig up all the shit, because you can use the shit as a manure, to thrive and blossom. So
Just the perfect metaphor, right?
yeah.
So I know we're pretty almost at our time, but so those that are have this awareness that life could be different, like for me there was an uneasiness, an uncomfortableness in my current space, that was sort of moving me towards being more curious and seeking and getting onto the journey. And I often talk about, you just need to know what the next step is. And I'm curious, for those that are listening and I'm going to watch this later in a podcast and through the recordings on YouTube, what would be something that somebody could do as far as a next step in pursuing what you're talking about?
So everything starts with you. Everything starts with you. Happiness is an inside job. And it's not, to take radical responsibility. That is not your boss. It's not your husband. It's not your parents' fault that you feel that you do. And I would say, like this, when I was depressed, for me, I didn't know anything then. I thought I was buried, and you are. Like, you can also see that depressed can be like a deep rest, a deep rest for body, mind, and soul.
Yeah.
So if you find yourself in a dark space, if you find yourself in uncomfortable situation, that is good. Embrace it, and you can choose to evolve from it. So that is good. There's also like a saying, to feel bad is a good start.
Right.
So don't be afraid of, of your inner wounds, your inner traumas, or if you're in an uncomfortable space, because that's your soul nudging you to move out of your comfort zone and for your own evolution.
Good
So
point.
just embrace it and use the feminine way. Just surrender, embrace it.
Yeah.
And give it time. And give it time.
Exactly.
Time.
And your courage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the courage to continue with that, right? Not to buy into, oh, I have to do something about that.
Exactly. And become aware of what I was just saying, cravings and aversions. Like, okay, what do I crave? I crave for this. I crave for that. That is the ego. Or I'm avoiding. I don't want to feel or experience this or that. That is also avoidance, like aversions. So cravings and aversions. Just ask yourself, is this true? Is this truly true? And how do I know that it's true?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Don't break down anymore. Only say break open. Yes. Or break through. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good, Wendy.
Or it's a good way to break down so you can break through.
Yeah.
Wow, so many incredible insights in this episode, so much wisdom. I want to ask you, I'm going to put in the chat all your links and where people can find you. But is there anything else you would like to share with the audience? I mean, your books are on here. Let me just post it now. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, here are all the places where you can find Ulrika, from her website to her books to the work that she does. I believe there's also the karma clearing that you do, which sounds fascinating. I'm very curious about that.
I would love to do your karma clearing. They really transformational and life-changing. So what I want to say is, first, thank you, Rick, and thank you, Fatí, for having me and for this heartfelt, deep, open conversation. And also thank you who's listening live or on the replay. And what I want to say is that when I was being suicidal, one day I was listening to Oprah Winfrey, and there was a guest, and I don't remember the guest or what the guest was saying, but that day I didn't commit suicide because there was something that was said that really resonated with me. So if there's something here today that I've said, if it's only like one word or one sentence that is resonating with you, then I've paid back my karma and like the circle is closed. So that's why I love to be part of these podcasts and to be able to be listened to, like ripple effects around the world, because I'm transmitting from a high frequency. And if you are listening, probably you are in a high frequency already to take the step there. So this is how we change the world individually and collectively. So thank you also for listening.
No, thank you.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love
Goosebumps.
If you can hear it, you're ready for it, right? If you heard it, you're ready for it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for coming on and for sharing your incredible, powerful story and all your wisdom. It's been truly a pleasure to have you on. Yeah. And I want to invite everyone to, this is going to drop in the podcast in a day or two. Subscribe, review, follow us on, subscribe us on YouTube. When you do that, you help us amplify these very, very powerful and important messages. Mm-hmm. So please go ahead. And if you enjoyed the show, if it had an impact on you, let us know. We want to know. Give us your feedback. This is how we make the show better.
Yeah.
And I guess until next time.
Oh, we got lots of hearts in the chat from Wendy. appreciate that. Thanks, Wendy, and
Thanks,
thank you,
Wendy.
Ulrika. And
Thank you.
I'm going to try and hit. There we go. So, ending and starting are always